Hello and welcome to Wings of Eagles broadcast. I'm Don Steiner and we're talking about the parables of the Bible. And this series that we're in right now is the parables of service and obedience. So we're going to jump right in Matthew chapter 20. We're going to talk about the parable of the vineyard, the workers in the vineyard. And we're going to see how that kind of unpacks. So join me in chapter 20, verse number 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early one morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay the normal daily wage and sent them out to work. Now, I want to just let you know that these people are people in the kingdom of heaven. So these are like born-again Christians, people who have already accepted Jesus Christ as their Savior. This is what Jesus is talking about here. He's not talking about people outside the kingdom of heaven. And so, verse 3, at 9 o'clock in the morning, the owner was passing through a marketplace and he saw some people standing around doing nothing. So he hired them, telling them he would pay them whatever was right at the end of the day. So they went to work in the vineyard. And at noon, and again at 3, he did the same thing. And then at 5 o'clock that afternoon, he was in town. And again, he saw some more people standing around. He asked them, "Why haven't you been working?" They replied, "Because no one hired us." The landowner told them, "Go out and join the others in my vineyard." So this is people that the owner of the vineyard had seen out in the marketplace in different places. He invited them to go work in his field, even in half the day, midday, into the day. He said, go work in the field, go out and help the people that are already there. And so they did. They went out and worked and they did their thing. Now we're coming to the end of the day, verse number 8. That evening he told the foreman to call the workers and pay them, beginning with the last workers first. So that means that the last workers who came to the field that at the end of the day, they got paid first. And the people who had worked all day, they got paid last. Then those hired at 5 o'clock were paid. Each received a full day's wage. When those hired first came to get their pay, they assumed they would receive more, but they too were paid a day's wage. When they received their day, they protested to the owner. "Those people worked only 1 hour, and yet you paid them as much as you paid us, who worked all day in the scorching heat." He answered, the owner of the field answered one of them, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. Didn't you agree to work all day for the usual wage? Take your money and go. I wanted to pay this last worker the same as you. Is it against the law for me to do what I want with my own money? Should you be jealous because I'm kind to others? Those who are last will now be first, then those who are first will be last." So let's unpack this parable because it's very significant for the kingdom of heaven and where each one of us is in that place in the kingdom of heaven. So first off, I want to point out that entrance into this field was by invitation only. And now this is Jesus telling this parable. So he's talking about the kingdom of heaven. In other words, entrance into heaven is by invitation only. You say, wait a minute, no, that's false doctrine. All you have to do is be saved. Listen, Jesus has said time and time again, John 15:16, "You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name." Now, this is Jesus talking. Remember, Jesus chose his disciples. His disciples didn't choose him. In fact, there's one passage in the Bible where Jesus said he gathered all of his disciples and chose 12. And so we understand that Jesus chose these disciples, these people, and Jesus is saying that the kingdom of heaven is such in that way. Now, this is significant for me for this one reason, because now I feel like God has singled me out and chosen me to be part of the kingdom of heaven. Now, it is true that I had to reciprocate that. I had to say, I accept. Yes, I will. In fact, there were those who were disciples of Jesus who, when he preached certain things in the Bible, they said, we can't do this. We're leaving. We're out of here. We've chosen to do something different. So in other words, God, through his grace and mercy, has chosen us for the kingdom of heaven, and yet we also have chosen to believe and to receive the free gift of salvation by Jesus Christ. But remember, The first invitation is by God himself. He's the one who sent Jesus into the world. It's by grace we're saved through faith in what Jesus has already done. And so God himself is the one who initiated all this. He's the one who set the initial invitation out there for us to be part of the kingdom of heaven. So I have to feel grateful. I don't have to. I feel grateful. We should feel grateful to God Almighty that we are part of the kingdom of heaven, that he has made room for us in this kingdom of heaven. So don't take your salvation for granted. Don't take grace for granted, my friend. He has invited you to be part of that kingdom of heaven. And so the first ones hired felt like they were owed more than they were promised. What is that? So Jesus starts out, he pays the ones who came last first. Now, I think in fairness, I thought maybe he should have paid the ones who've been working the longest first, gave them their day's wage and let them go so they didn't see what he paid the other people. But no, Jesus did it backwards. He paid the people that had only worked an hour first so that everybody else can see it. Now, this is significant because in the kingdom of heaven, I believe Jesus says in many times that we will receive rewards for that which we do on this earth. We are not earning our salvation. We're not earning a way into heaven. But God says for the faithful, there is a reward for those who are faithful. And this also shows me that other people will see what rewards we get. So nothing's going to be a secret in the kingdom of heaven. Everything that you do on this earth, everything that you walk out on this earth, everything that happens in your life after you become a believer on this earth will be exposed in the kingdom of heaven. And so that should be a warning to most of us that may have a tendency to not want to be faithful, not want to be loyal, or have a lazy streak or whatever. Listen, not only God is watching, but all of heaven is watching. They know what's going on. And so this is what happened with these people. They were paid last so that they could see that the first ones who only worked an hour were paid the same thing they got paid. And then they had this feeling that they should get more. See, grace doesn't work that way. Grace is the same for all. For the innocent people who lived a kind, loving life and didn't do much, didn't do wrong. They were saved their whole life. They grew up. They didn't hurt anybody. They loved people. They gave their whole life. They're going to go to heaven and they're going to have rewards. But what Jesus is talking about this is that invitation to be in heaven. Grace is the same for the same person who lived a sinful life his whole life, who cheated and killed and destroyed and did things. And just before they died, they asked Jesus to forgive them. Grace came to them. They were entered in heaven. Now, they may not have the same rewards as we had, and we'll talk about that later in the next video, but they still received the same grace, the same input. They received the same entrance, the same invitation into the kingdom of heaven that those of us or people who have lived their whole life in the gospel, in the message of gospel, and really haven't done a lot of bad things. So it's an amazing analogy here what Jesus does. So here's my takeaway on this. Matthew 6:1 says, watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward of your Father in heaven. So Jesus is literally talking about rewards. In fact, a lot of in Matthew chapter 6 talks about rewards in heaven and those things that are coming to us. But here's the takeaway. God doesn't owe me anything. And sometimes we have this feeling that because we're children of God, that we're entitled, that we're owed something. We're owed something other than entrance to heaven. We're not even owed that. We're given that by choice, because Jesus chose us. He chose to send his son. He chose to produce a means of redemption. He chose to give us grace. He gave us that. So God doesn't owe me anything. And so now that I'm in the kingdom of heaven, I don't go around with an entitlement mentality like these workers that were worked all day. They had an entitlement mentality. They thought they were going to get paid more. They thought they were owed more. He doesn't owe us anything. And that's the first takeaway we need to understand. God doesn't owe us anything. So for us, it's a matter of grace. Be content with what you have. That's what Jesus is saying here. That's the whole concept of this parable, is that number one, we were chosen. Number two, it's by grace that we receive entrance into the kingdom of heaven. Number three, there are rewards in heaven. There are things that God will do for us. He's expecting us to work. He's expecting us to do. He went out into the marketplace to find people, and he found people as he went in the marketplace, spoke to them, said, why aren't you working? Come. It's time to be busy. It's time to be involved in the kingdom of heaven. I think it's a message to all of us that God expects us to be busy in the kingdom of heaven. He expects us to do things in the kingdom of heaven. God doesn't want us just sitting around doing nothing. God expects us to jump in and to do whatever it is that God's called you to do, whatever talent you have. And all of us have a talent. You can be kind, you can be gentle, you can be giving. You say, well, I don't have anything to give and I don't have any reason to be kind. Yes, you do. The fact that Jesus called you and he chose you and he's given you this grand opportunity to work in the kingdom of heaven. My friends, it's an awesome opportunity that is before us. It's an awesome responsibility that's before us. And God's calling us to run to him in this last hour, in this hour, and do everything we can to walk it out in the kingdom of heaven, to love God, love our neighbors, love others, give, and do what we can to advance the kingdom of heaven. My friend, God is calling you. God has spoken to your heart in this video, and he said to you, my son, my daughter, I love you. I'm asking you, rise up. Listen, you can rise up in the kingdom of heaven. You can rise up. You can do whatever you find your hand to do. Every one of us have something that's out there, but we have to rise up and make haste and move on that which is available to us. And every one of you have a gift, have a calling, have something available to you that God has called you to do. And God is saying to you, I've chosen you. I've set you up. Here's the kingdom, and your reward is great. So my brothers and sisters, if that's you, just pray with me. Jesus, show me what to do. Take me there. Let me just fulfill the burden of my heart. Whatever it is, God, show me, take me, and I will obey. I will walk with you. Say that with me. Say, Jesus, I will walk with you. Say, Jesus, I will obey. That's all it takes. You start there, and then you move forward. So my friends, if this video is ministered to you, share it. Please like it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And more than anything, run to God. Do whatever God is calling you to do. Whatever you find your hands to do it with the utmost of integrity, with all of your heart. Run in the kingdom of heaven. Run a race like you want to win. God bless you. Until next time, know that we're praying for you. We love you. We'll see you in the next video.